I think I'm entitled.
You want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
To have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren? I don't understand this.
Then, as a mother suffering deeply, that she does not understand why the murder of her daughter is dismissed and all the attention given to an El Salvadoran gang member being sent back from Maryland, and the senator from Maryland, one of the senators, deciding, I'm going to go down to El Salvador and I'm going to bring him back because they should not have taken him from my state, one of my citizens. First of all, he was not a citizen. He came into the country illegally. He was still here illegally. He got rounded up in an ICE raid, and in the beginning, it appeared to be a mistake, but more we get into it, there was no mistake as far as he deserves to be thrown out of the country. But that mother appealing yesterday in the White House, why does my daughter and her death not count? It is sickening. It almost makes you want to literally throw up to think of those children left behind and this mother losing her daughter, while her senator decides to go all out on a publicity campaign to go down to El Salvador and make it appear that I'm going to take care of everything. I'm going to tell you this first segment of this hour, and a lot of the next hour, is dedicated to that mother, Patty Moran, and her daughter, and all the others who have lost loved ones due to Joe Biden's illegal invasion. Whether they died from fentanyl, whether they died from being attacked directly by an illegal, or they got killed in a crash, a DUI crash or something of that nature, this segment is dedicated to those victims and their families. Thanks for joining us. You're on hour number 1, Larry Connors USA. We give you news, analysis, opinion, and education. When you walk away from this program, you will know more than you did when we began. And reminding you when we're on the air, Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m., we are streaming video. You can watch the program. You'll go to NewsTalkSTL.com. You can go to NewsTalk, our app as well. You can go to Larry Connors USA, Facebook. And a key point for both of them, NewsTalk STL Rumble and Larry Connors USA Rumble are 2 great ways to watch. And everything goes up later as a podcast at NewsTalk STL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, Larry Connors USA Facebook. I do want to take a moment to thank all of you who turned out last night for Mayor Glenn Jacobs of Knoxville County, Tennessee, and his talk about getting rid of taxes in Missouri as they have in Tennessee, and the surprise guest for many, U.S. Senator Eric Schmitt. And he was a big surprise to a lot of people, and he had many comments to add to Mayor Jacobs. Thank all of you for showing up, and thank you for listening and being part of the News Talk STL Nation. Later in this hour, transgender ideology being used to take children from their fathers. Transgender ideology being used to take children from their fathers. That is later in this hour. And in the next hour, helping you get a better understanding of annuities and how they may or may not work for you depending on your situation. It'll be one of my sponsors, Leslie Consulting Incorporated, Bob Leslie. He's an expert in that field, and I think it's good to get the information out so you can make decisions. All right, back to Maryland Senator Van Hollen, who decided he and other Democrats suddenly jumped on board as well. We need to do a welfare check on these people we are sending to El Salvador, this terrorist prison, one of the worst prisons in the world. Ignoring a mother who's lost her child and her 4 children who lost their mother. Carolyn Levitt, White House spokeswoman, talking about the remarks of Patty Moran and her loss.
It was incredibly difficult to stand beside Patty Moran, a mother who has experienced every mother's worst nightmare. And it was incredibly powerful to listen to her words because they are the truth, the brutal truth about what happened to her beautiful daughter at the hands of a heinous monster who should have never been allowed into our country in the first place. And Patty was so courageous and brave to share the gruesome details about her daughter's murder. And thank goodness our justice system convicted this illegal alien criminal murderer of the heinous killing of Patty's daughter. And I was so honored to stand beside her today. And it speaks to she also spoke to just the lack of common sense by today's modern day Democrat Party, because you have a senator in Maryland who is supposed to serve his constituents, including Patty Moran and Rachel Moran and their family. And instead, he is spending more time wasting taxpayer dollars flying to a foreign country in an attempt to bring back an illegal criminal alien foreign terrorist gang member than he ever gave the time to Patty Moran and her mourning family over the loss of his constituent. This shows you how deranged the modern day Democrat Party has truly become. And we are incredibly grateful for Patty for her willingness and her request to share her story at the White House briefing room today.
And it was a horrifying story. I'm going to summarize it for you. Not going to get into all the details. She said, my daughter simply went out for a walk. She was not planning on dying that day. She was just going to go walk, maybe go to the grocery store with her girls afterwards. But the guy that they caught and convicted for her murder, he was waiting for her to come closer and closer and closer. And he grabbed her and pulled her off in the weeds and hit her in the head, dragging her 150 feet with blood gushing from her head. That's the kind of people that you've got Maryland Senator Van Hollen and other Democrats lining up to go, maybe we should look at this prison down there, a welfare check on these people. And what about the news coverage of Patty Moran yesterday at the White House? Did you see much of it? I doubt it. I'm looking at a piece here that Brendan Carr, chair of the FCC, had a good take on it. He said these outlets spending days misleading the American public, implying that the guy they're going down to get, Abrego Garcia, was merely a law-abiding U.S. citizen. He said, and then when the truth comes out, they ignore it. You want to guess which 2 networks refused to carry Patty Moran's remarks in the press room? CNN, MSNBC. You win the prize. No surprise there, though, right? That's the news coverage. Attorney General Pam Bondi says we have plenty of evidence to send this guy away.
This is an extremely disturbing case, and as a career prosecutor, it is even more disturbing. Every American tonight should be thanking Donald Trump for making America safer by getting this guy out of our country. I'm going to call him a terrorist because he has been designated as a member of a terrorist organization. So this illegal alien terrorist came into our country illegally in March of 2012. We know that because he admitted that when he was stopped in 2019 by the anti-gang squad. They stopped him at a Home Depot with 3 other members. And here's what's very important. He was wearing a sweatshirt with gang insignia on it. The guy he was with, another MS-13 known member, had a tattoo with very similar insignia on it. ICE declared him as a member of MS-13. The police officers, the gang unit, declared him as a member of MS-13. And also, they independently went to a reliable, confidential informant who said not only is he a member of MS-13, he gave them the clique, the Westerns, and he was called a Chicao, which is one of the higher-ranking MS-13 members.
That, again, Attorney General Pam Bondi. Now, she's talking about the guy that is in El Salvador taken out of Maryland, that Senator Van Hollen says he shouldn't have been sent down there. Well, he was picked up by mistake, got sent down there by mistake, but he damn sure deserves to be there. Patty Marin is talking about the man that got convicted of killing her daughter, but the two are the same. MS-13 guys, just like this. Pam Bondi says, and there's another part of the story about the guy that's in El Salvador right now.
Here's where it gets even more frightening. In 2021, his girlfriend previously, his wife at the time, who he had married in jail after he'd gotten numerous tickets, didn't show up for court. He marries her in jail. She has a baby with him. And as a career domestic violence prosecutor, too, I know it takes a lot for any woman to come into court and say they're a victim of domestic violence. This woman came into court twice getting a restraining order against him, saying it's horrific. He had beaten her. He had punched her in the eye. He had ripped her clothes off. What causes a young mother to do this? Her child was with her. She talked about her child in the petition for an injunction for safety. Ultimately, she didn't show up for court. That's your typical domestic violence victim. But this victim was even braver because she was married to one of the top MS-13 members who was illegally in our country and a terrorist. And every liberal journalist who has called him a Maryland man and saying he was rightfully in this country should be apologizing tonight.
You're not going to get it. You're not going to get any apology from these guys. And despite all of this, everything you just heard from the Attorney General, Maryland Senator Van Hollen almost weeping as he tries to bring this terrorist back to the USA. And he's definitely going to make it clear that I don't think this guy should have ever been sent down there.
I'm asking President Bukele, under his authority as president of El Salvador, to do the right thing and allow Mr. Abrego Garcia to walk out of a prison, a man who's charged with no crime, convicted of no crime, and who was illegally abducted from the United States.
He wasn't abducted. He was not abducted. And you heard all the charges that were against him anyway, and the restraining order, but his wife got too fearful to go forward. Now, Senator Van Hollen has a lot of people around him that are supporting this idea. They were all, of course, Democrats. I want to share this with you. Some other Democrats say we need to go down there and conduct welfare checks on all the illegals deported from the U.S. down to that prison. They want to do welfare checks. Yep, a letter got sent to House Oversight Committee Chair, Republican James Comer, letter from California Congressman Garcia, Florida Congressman Democrat Frost, requesting we get approval to go to El Salvador so we can visit at least 2 illegals, gang members deported. We respectfully request to do that. We want to make sure they're okay. You know, here's what I suggest. Here's my suggestion. Senator Van Hollen, you and these other 2 Democrats, You signed papers saying, we will take care of these people, we will house them and watch out for them if you'll release them into our custody. They will live at our house. Do you think they would consider that? Hell no. And here comes James Carville, suddenly a legal mind on something he knows nothing.
So let me get this straight. This guy was here legally. There are a lot of people here that are legal that really contribute to our workforce, contribute to our productivity. He was doing nothing wrong. He was in a parking lot. He had a child that had challenges in the back seat. He was sent to El Salvador. The district court said he has to come back. The appeals court said he had to come back. The Supreme Court said he had to come back. There's not a single judge that has looked at this said he'd come back. And so the administration said, we're just not going to bring him back. Well, that is the very essence of a constitutional crisis. When you have an order from a court, that's not that it needs to be ratified. You know, John, you're a little young, but in 2000, at the turn of this century, the Supreme Court, without good reason, just went off and stole an election. And, you know, what we did, we said, well, the Supreme Court has spoken. And this is not something that's a minor thing where you just ignore a court order. And this tin horn coming in here in the White House and them refusing to pay attention to a legitimate order issued by American courts this is not going to end well unless somebody gets this guy back in this country where he belongs.
You want to take him in your house, James Carville. And why don't you get your facts straight? The Supreme Court did not order Trump to bring him back. They said you must facilitate. That's not just my statement. That's the CNN legal analyst on the Supreme Court and what it said.
They did not order the administration to return him to the United States. They said that they need to facilitate this return. They could have said, we order him returned, but they didn't do that. So you heard the Attorney General. She was being very careful in the Oval Office when she was asked, would you help? She says, of course, we'd provide a plane, right? Thereby facilitating whatever El Salvador is doing. The Supreme Court appeared to defer to the executive branch, given that this is an international matter. And you see, yes, it does look a little bit like a semantic game, but they are playing within the bounds of what the Supreme Court ruled. So no, they are not defying this order.
So James Carville, you're wrong. There is no defying. Oh, and for those concerned about welfare checks, how about Harvey Weinstein? Yes, the sexual predator out of Hollywood, big movie mogul. He's complaining, saying, I need to spend time in the hospital. I'm being held in Rikers prison during my appeal of my case. No one's listening, Harvey. They're looking at El Salvadoran illegals. You are old news. You're no longer of interest and value to the Democrats. Coming up, taking children from their fathers, lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. Ackerman Toyota is #1 in sales for 2024. That is 2 years in a row. It's really no surprise. Ackerman has the largest customer lounge where you can relax, take your time choosing new or premium pre-owned. Ackerman at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Thank you for making Ackerman Toyota #1 2 years in a row. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life. John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. Got a great fun idea for you. The Oak Street Inn and Lounge Speakeasy, now open, but you need a passcode to get in. Easy to get. Just visit the Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. I got my code. Get yours. We'll gather at the Speakeasy. Oak Street Inn and Lounge in Cottleville. Plus, enjoy some fine dining. Visit the Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook for your Speakeasy passcode. Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. Get your code now.
This is News Talk STL.
I'm gonna run away to the gun carry, make camp where the land is bare. I'm gonna run away to the gun carry, ain't no one gonna find me there. Ain't no one gonna find me there. Found trouble in the town I come from, left 6 months ago or so. I had to run from the man I wronged there.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. As startling and as terrifying and horrific as this is, transgender ideology currently being used to remove children from their fathers. I'll give you a case example. A Texas father, Jeff Younger, had fought years in the courts to keep his ex-wife from allowing their preteen son, who now identifies as a girl named Luna, to get gender-affirming care. Gender-affirming is gender mutilation. That's really what it is. Giving us more background on that and other cases, Ed Bartlett, founder of SAVE, an organization focused on fairness and due process on college campuses, but in this case also fighting for children and the parents of children who want to protect them. Ed, welcome aboard.
Hello, Larry. Good to chat with you. Did you hear that the Supreme Court in the United Kingdom just 2 days ago?
I did. We had it on the air. Yeah, I did. They said they said you can't do that. I mean, you cannot call them by transgender names. It's binary, male, female. Period.
Yeah. The science is going in our direction, and the high court decisions are definitely going in our direction. That said, there is a large coterie of activists at the local level who are engaged in a rearguard movement, pushing for this transgender ideology every way they can.
The U.S. Constitution provides the fundamental right of parents to make decisions about their child's education, health care, and religious upbringing. But now that's going to be taken away if they continue what they want to do.
We have to understand where all this nonsense comes from. It comes from Marxist ideology. Marxism was not just about eliminating differences of economic class. Its aim is actually to eliminate all social differences, including social differences of biological sex. And what better way to do that than to simply declare, oh, there is no such thing as sex, biological sex. It's only gender identity. Take your pick.
I'm looking at, I mentioned the Jeff Younger case. There's also another case that you're aware of out of New York, a father who, thanks to the decision by the Erie County Supreme Court, lost all parental rights except for visitation to see his 9-year-old son, because when the son is staying with the ex-wife, he's a girl.
Yeah, and it appears that more often than not, it's the ex-wife that is doing the shenanigans. It's not the ex-husband, and we could explore that if you want to. But bottom line is, this is definitely concerning, but it's actually even worse in Colorado. Colorado right now is debating a bill that would say that even if the child never said, I am transgender, if a parent simply declares that child is transgender, if the other parent disagrees with that, that could be the basis of of saying that other second parent is coercive control or abusive.
I want to read directly from that bill since you brought it up. This is a Colorado legislative bill, HB 25-1312, Legal Protections for Transgender Individuals, allowing one parent to declare that their child is LGBTQ or transgender and then accuse the other parent of abuse or coercive control simply because they disagree, even if the child never expressed that identity themselves.
Well, we're just seeing the total lack of coherent argument, the total lack of biological basis, the total lack of just rational discourse on this issue. But it shows again the underlying agenda here is not to promote human rights, is to attack and dissolve the most fundamental institutions of our society, including parenthood and families.
You're listening to Ed Bartlett, president of SAVE, Stop Abuse in Violent Environments. You mentioned that generally these claims are made by the mother. By the mothers claiming that my child should be able to do what they want despite what the father wants, so I want to take the child back from the father. You said you might want to explain that in more detail for us.
Yeah, so there's a condition called Munchausen syndrome.
Yeah.
Where a parent or somebody imputes that their child is ill when they are not ill. That's Munchausen syndrome.
And that is often women, mothers. Go ahead.
That's exactly right. I think it's 92-93% female. So the theory is that this trend we're talking about now is driven by a Munchausen syndrome-like phenomenon of imputing that the child truly is transgender when that may be totally not truly the case at all.
And what about, I was wondering if revenge or hatred for the husband played a role in
it. I'm not going to go there with that because I just, I try to be fair and objective. I just don't know for sure, but we do know that in the vast majority of cases, it is the mother or the ex-wife that's pushing these crazy theories.
You can look at it in a different light for just a moment. Let's say we have a father, a husband and wife, and he's one religion, the wife is another, and they get into an argument as to which way they want to raise their child religiously. Well, that happens often. But in this case, we're talking about not just that you're going to dress as a girl when you're a boy or the vice versa, but if you're going to consent and with the parents' acceptance and maybe without having parental consent at all, you're going to be mutilated to make the sex that you want to be.
It almost defies belief, almost defies rationality. But yes, this is happening. I know for a fact that literally millions of school children in the U.S. are in schools that have these parent secrecy policies. In other words, if a child himself or herself says, I want to change my gender, says that to a school employee, the school may not inform the parent that the child said that. Literally millions of children are in that schools with that particular policy.
And specifically, since you brought that up, Illinois has a community unit school district 300 that uses a gender support plan stating the gender identity of students can be hidden from the parents.
Yeah, I mean, what better way to destroy the coherency of the nuclear family than to simply say to parents, no, your opinion no longer counts. The child will undergo, the gender mutilation, and sorry, mom or dad, you have no say in that. We're harkening back to the policies we read about in the Soviet Union.
Yeah. And you're talking about some of the stuff carried out during the Hitler regime as scientific experiments.
Well, there you go. And it's also interesting that when you look at the history of the Cultural Revolution in China, which was in the 1960s, as radical as that was, they were not trying to change the gender or the sex of children in the Chinese Cultural Revolution. They were just focused on the schools and the government. But it just shows you how far and how extreme this transgender movement has become.
But what they were doing is, if you have a girl, the girl is of no value to us. We only need one girl for every 30 men, so the child might be abandoned or killed.
It turns out that in a majority of cases, it's a biological male who says he wants to become female, but all of the publicity about the transgender sports is a biological male saying he wants to be female. Anyway, the situation is so confusing that no wonder so many people are confused about it.
And the problem is, and of course, Trump made it very clear, and the government is moving against the governor of Maine because they are violating Title IX, and they're going to allow boys, transgenders, to compete against women. And it's going to end badly all the way around, and it does for a lot of these who have gone through transgender surgery. They're not any happier, and they are maybe even more suicidal.
Yeah, the person whose name comes to mind is Chloe Cole,
right?
Who became, I think she was 16 when she lost her breasts.
She didn't lose them. She didn't lose them. They cut them off. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about Maine, we're talking about the governor of Maine, Janet Mills. I mean, she is in a totally losing position. She's not going to win this battle. I just don't understand why, she's picking this particular battle, because she will not win.
I don't understand why any of these folks want to push transgender ideology on kids without the parents even being informed. I don't understand at all, but that's where we are in today's world. Ed Bartlett, founder of SAVE. Again, I want to thank you for your time, sir.
Good to chat with you, Larry. Be in touch.
You bet. We'll do it again. Coming up, New York Attorney General Letitia James. She's facing possible fraud charges on mortgage applications. She sounds like she's losing it. Stand by, please.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I've got a phone number for you and a website where you can take a free, quick survey to learn how to use artificial intelligence, AI, to put your company on a fast track to the future. Here's the number. It's a 636 area code, 636-689-0545, 689-0545. This is PRI Global. And recently, the St. Louis Business Journal named PRI Global as a leading IT consulting company. 25 years working with hundreds of companies, several Fortune 500, locally and around the world. PRI Global has its own AI lab to develop what's best for your company. Take the free survey and be on your way to the future. 636-689-0545, 689-0545, or go direct PRIglobal.ai, PRIglobal.ai. You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. I have several questions for you, but there's only one answer. Who has the most 5-star reviews for windows in St. Louis? Renewal by Anderson. Who is the Post-Dispatch Window Retailer of the Year? Renewal by Anderson. Who is the J.D. Power Award winner 5 years in a row? The same. Renewal by Anderson. Dial pound 250 and say Windows. Pound 250, say Windows. Renewal by Anderson. A better way to a better window. Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. It means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Had me, girl, taught me those things a young man should know. Down on my knees and begging, I plead to learn a little bit more. Oh, that woman taught me to pray. I saw heaven every day, and all she could.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
My mission is clear. I'm focused. I'm prepared. I'm ready. I've been trained by the best. I went to Howard University.
Yeah, good.
That overturned legal segregation in this country. I've been taught in those classrooms where Thurgood Marshall once taught. I'm not afraid of no president. Donald Trump, we're ready for you. We're coming for you. We're standing up for you. We're fighting on. We're not going down silent. Victory, my friends, is clear. It's now. And I'm not waiting 4 years. I'm waiting 2 until a speaker by the name of Hakeem Jeffries comes to bring us some rest. Come on, ladies. It's up to us. We saved this democracy before. We'll save it now. Let's go.
Let's go, Letitia James. Boy, she fired up. And by the way, you heard her slip in there that we're waiting on Hakeem Jeffries. She's suggesting Hakeem Jeffries will be leading the Democrat Party in the next presidential election. I might fall back strictly to Louisiana Senator John Kennedy and say, well, you know what, the best thing for us to do is just let him talk. Let him talk. But that woman was over the top. Why? Maybe she's feeling the heat and the pressure because a federal judge yesterday said he found not yesterday, 2 days ago, found questions, and the Justice Department is looking at, not a federal judge. Let me correct that. I've got so much information here in front of me, sometimes I get ahead of myself. I'm sorry. I apologize. But she's under investigation for lying on mortgage loans, filling out paperwork with misleading and absolutely false statements. One of the misleading statements is to how big her place was in New York, so she could get apparently that was going to work in a way that was going to give her a more favorable loan. And then she's got a house in Virginia. Now, she is a New York Attorney General. She needs to reside in the state of New York. But it's not sure she actually declared that as her permanent residence, her official residence. But she has a house. But also inside of applying for this loan, she listed her father as her husband. And the question is he your father or is he your husband? Or is he both? That might be her best defense when you get down to it. But she's facing charges. Yesterday we were talking about how many others have been brought up on similar charges of lying and misleading statements on mortgage loans and facing criminal consequences and sometimes civil consequences from the mortgage lender. So Letitia James has every reason to be out there crying. And she made a point to holler out about Howard University, which is one of the HBUC, historically black university colleges and campuses. And it's a great school. I think she just smeared them, though, on the way she brought them in. And, of course, she got a few cries of support. I think Howard has been, as I say, historically black university. It's done an excellent job all these years, as have many other HBUC, historically black universities and colleges. And you know who gave them extra money in his first term? Donald Trump. He made it easier for them to get loans and monies. It was from Donald Trump. Obama didn't do that. And then Biden did nothing to help them when he was in office. But Obama was there for 8 years. He certainly knows about Howard University and others, historically black university campus or colleges. And he didn't do anything to help them. But Donald Trump did. But do you think Donald Trump is getting any praise for the leftist media? What are you smoking out there? You're listening. Yeah, you need to be careful in doing that, because I tell you, this program is not just news, opinion, and analysis. It is an education. So I want you to be able to pass a test at the end of the hour. We always give you a test. We might start doing that. I might. Now, thank you as always for listening. But you talk about someone else who wants to stretch an event so it makes them look like they're more special, and because you didn't refer to it in the right terms, that you were demeaning them. And in fact, you're probably racist, aren't you? Gayle King of the CBS Morning Show was one of the ones that went up in the rocket the other day to part of the Virgin blast-off with 6 other women, one of them being Jeff Bezos' girlfriend. I assume he wanted her to come back. Anyway, they did all come back fine. They were up briefly, high enough to be actually in space for a period of time, and then back down. But some were reporting it and referring to it as a ride. Oh, Gayle King, that upset her.
I don't like that people are calling it a ride. A ride, you never see a male astronaut who's going up in space and they said, oh, he took a ride. We actually duplicated the route that Alan Shepard did. That's why it's called, this particular capsule is called the New Shepard. We duplicated that route. No one said he took that ride. Yeah. It's always referred to as a flight or a journey. So I feel that that's a little disrespectful to what the mission was and what the work that Blue Origin does. We use space technology all the time, whether it's your GPS, whether it's your satellite. That doesn't just happen. Every time a flight goes up, they get some type of information. 2 of the astronauts, I still have a hard time calling myself an astronaut, but 2 of the astronauts.
She said, I still have a hard time calling myself an astronaut, but you can't just say I took a ride. We did exactly what Alan Shepard did. Now, Alan Shepard did take a blast into space, and when he went in, again, I don't know if this did follow his original flight plan or not, but he went to space twice. First on a Mercury Redstone in 1961, making him the first American in space. Second flight, Apollo 14 in 1971, where he commanded the mission and ended up walking on the moon. Alan Shepard trained for that flight extensively, even the first one, when he just basically shot up and then came back down. So these women are basically learning from what Shepard and other astronauts have done for us. And at that point, you couldn't say he was taking a ride. He was an astronaut. We had a program. None of these women are, quote, astronauts. They didn't really do anything. They controlled nothing. They're much like Chuck Yeager said, the test pilot that broke the sound barrier. He said, I don't want to get in the space program. Right now, it's like spam in a can. They shoot you up in a kind of event, a capsule, and you return to Earth. You don't do anything. You can't do anything. You're just along for the ride. But we were calling them astronauts because they were doing things that had never been approached before. But Gayle King wants to think I have done as much as any of the others, and because it's a woman, you want to say it's a ride. Gayle King, do you remember the Space Shuttle Challenger, January 1986. Astronauts on board, 73 seconds into flight, it blew apart. And 2 women were on board. They had trained for months, basically 2 years or more, just to have the opportunity to be on that shuttle. And one of them, of course, Krista McAuliffe, who was going to be teaching classes while the program was underway and they were in orbit. They were astronauts. Gil Keane, you're not an astronaut. You got shot into space. You've been into space. I give you credit for that. I would like to have that opportunity. But the others who spend years training for a mission, they're astronauts. You were just basically a cab ride up into space and back. That's all you did. I'm not dismissing the fact that you did it. I'm glad you felt courage enough to do it. Good. But don't demean the others who are real astronauts, be they men or women. And no one said at that time when Krista McAuliffe was going up on Space Shuttle Challenger and the other woman on board, Judith Heimgartner, no one said that those 2 girls are just girls and they were going along with the men for a ride. They were astronauts. They trained for it. There's an excellent piece currently on Netflix called Challenger. I strongly encourage you to watch it. And here's something else about that event. Again, happened January 28, 1986, when it just blew apart. 73 seconds into the flight. Many did not know about it for a long time. I happened to be in the car and had a radio station on, and they had an interruption to bring that news. You know who were the first to see it and really experience it as it was happening? Children. Children across the nation. Their schools had a program set up that they were going to be participating with Krista McAuliffe, a teacher, taking some of her notes and doing things, special projects. All across our nation, TVs were turned to the Shuttle Challenger liftoff. And children saw it well before their parents did. Because by then, Shuttle Challenger, just another shuttle bus going up and down. It had become that routine. That day changed everything. Coming up, a Muslim in Dearborn, Michigan, is basically calling for jihad against America and says that he's even ashamed Muslims in this country have not done what Hamas did in attacking Israel. That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. And don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors, USA. Larry Connors, USA.
Message for the people of Gaza is going to be more of the message that should be sent to the people here, in that they have achieved victory. We haven't done anywhere near enough. And the people here, I promise you, we do feel ashamed. We do feel like we're not doing enough. We do feel like change needs to come, because change must come. And in the form that it must come is that this empire, the American empire that's been hurting our people since the beginning, the imperial Western powers that have been hurting our people since the beginning, they must fall. And inshallah they will fall. And my message to the people of Gaza and the oppressed peoples across the world is that there are people here, both young and old, who are going to be willing to fight and are willing to put their lives and everything they can on the line to bring these empires down, because they must come down.
That is, again, a man identifying himself as a Muslim in Dearborn, Michigan, openly saying, we are here to destroy America, and we should. And we should be ashamed that we have not done it already. We should look what Hamas did to Israel and the Jews they captured. And we should be doing that. If that guy is here on a student visa, it should be yanked immediately. If he is here on a work visa, it should be yanked. If he is an American, you can't deport him, but you're going to need to keep a closer watch on him. Now, the other thing about it, while he's talking, standing next to him, I'm going to assume is his wife, or at least a woman that apparently is more than a friend to him. And she's watching him while he's speaking and talking about bringing all this jihad to America. My read, my perspective, she looks terrified at looking at him. That maybe she doesn't agree, but is she going to dare speak out against him? The Maryland El Salvadoran refugee that was illegal that got sent down to the El Salvadoran prison, his wife filed suit against him 2 different times for restraining orders because he was beating her up constantly. I just wonder if this young woman is subject to that same thing, if she dares say anything against what the man just said for you to hear. We should be ashamed we're not eradicating America. They're in our midst. You want a protection or you want to just walk away and give up? I do not give up, and nor should you. We're going to get into this in even more detail in the next hour. As always, I remind you, do not forget our pledge. One nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call to John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. Ackerman Toyota is #1 in sales for 2024. That is 2 years in a row. It's really no surprise. Ackerman has the largest customer lounge where you can relax, take your time choosing new or premium pre-owned. Ackerman at Hampton and 44. AckermanToyota.com. Thank you for making Ackerman Toyota #1 2 years in a row. AckermanToyota.com. Ackerman Toyota for life. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as Support Dogs for Our Brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. I can tell you how to get a free quick quiz to see how artificial intelligence can boost your company's potential. You go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. St. Louis Business Magazine listing PRI as one of the leading IT companies, and PRI has its own AI lab to develop what your business needs. priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai.
This is News Talk STL.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I'm asking President Bukele, under his authority as president of El Salvador, to do the right thing and allow Mr. Abrego Garcia to walk out of a prison, a man who's charged with no crime, convicted of no crime, and who was illegally abducted from the United States.
Oh, yeah. There you have your Maryland Senator Van Hollen saying, I'm going to ask the president of El Salvador, let this guy go. He's one of my citizens from Maryland. He is not a citizen of the U.S., much less of Maryland. He is known associate with MS-13, and he is known to terrorize at least his wife and others. He did get rounded up in an ICE raid, and he did get sent to El Salvador with the others they had, and the White House even admits, yeah, we failed to file one little simple piece of paperwork, and he got put on that plane. But now he's gone. He's down there. And the president of El Salvador has already said, when they were trying to get him to come back, the president of El Salvador basically posted on his social media account, whoopsie, he's already here. And he had later said, I'm not sending him back. And Attorney General Pam Bondi said, and we're not taking him back. And do not listen to the lies you're hearing from the left that Donald Trump and that White House is not obeying a Supreme Court order, as if Joe Biden ever really did. But the Supreme Court did not order Trump to return the Maryland man back to the States. Did not do so. The court said you must facilitate his return and send it back down to lower courts for them to work it out. And Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, said, we will facilitate. In other words, we'll meet what the court said. We'll provide a jet to bring him back. But we don't want him. We're not going to come down and get him. And on top of that, the president of El Salvador says, I'm going to keep him right here. So you got Senator Van Hollen running down there and saying, basically, we want a welfare check on this guy in addition to getting him out. And he's not the only one. There are other Democrats with the same kind of nonsensical thinking. I'll lay it out for you. First of all, welcome to hour number 2, Larry Connors USA. We're here every Monday through Friday for you from 6 to 8 p.m. And, yep, we do get heated on this program. And you can watch us get heated by going to NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook, or Twitter. Larry Connors USA Rumble or Facebook. And everything later goes up as a podcast. So if you have to miss part of the program or you want to share it with someone else, you simply pull up the podcast and watch at your pleasure. And you can also push the button to share with someone else. It's that easy. You can also subscribe. We will send it to your mailbox on a daily basis, so you don't need to worry about looking for it and pulling it up later. We do not share your information with anyone. And with Larry Connors USA, you are going to get news, analysis, opinion, and at no extra charge, education. When you leave 1 hour, even 1 hour of Larry Connors USA, maybe even 15 minutes, you're going to be more informed and more educated than you were before you started listening. My point here is not just to pontificate and rail and rile, which I'm pretty good at doing that, but also to educate you on some points that you might not know or you don't understand fully. And that's not knocking you and not making me a professor. It's just that I put a lot of time into pulling up programs and pieces I think will add to your day and understanding of what is really going on. I can't get it all in 2 hours. I can't. If they gave me a third hour, I still couldn't get it all in. Last night, I want to thank those who showed up at the St. Charles Comedy Club for Mayor Glenn Jacobs, Knoxville County, I should say, Tennessee, coming in and addressing the crowd, talking about with the Americans for Prosperity to drop the state income tax in Missouri like they have in Tennessee and in other states. I want to thank you for being there and talking to some of you. I know you enjoy the program, and I know you can't listen all the time, every time, but you go to the podcast, it's always there for you. More importantly, share it with others at the same time. I told you, in addition to Senator Van Hollen going down, which, by the way, I've been running a commentary today, and I'm wondering if some people are thinking, is this for real? The commentary is basically suggesting that Senator Van Hollen and other Democrats have been organizing a travel trip. They have a travel agency open. You want to go to the beaches and see some beautiful water in a country you've never been to? How about a trip to El Salvador? You will be escorted by police to the El Salvadoran prison so you can see the worst prison in the world, where they keep all their terrorists in El Salvador. That's where this Maryland man is now. Rightly so. I'm wondering how many were listening to that commentary thinking, are they actually doing that? Because the left is so deranged, they might. If they thought they could make money on it, they might well do that. Let me give you a couple other Democrats that were playing this stupid game. Congressman Garcia of California and Frost of Florida sent a letter to House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer, Republican, requesting that our committee as a whole should travel to El Salvador to visit at least 2 illegal aliens accused of being gang members. We want to go down there and basically do a welfare check on them. I could save you the trip. Their welfare is not likely good. They don't have meals as you might get in a U.S. prison. They don't have conditions as you might have in a U.S. prison, showers and so forth. No game room and TV room. They may have a game room, but you don't want to go into that room. And they're requesting as a whole we get GOP legislators to go with us, to go down there and check it out. Idiocy. That's what that defies, or rather defines basically what they're doing. Full idiocy. And here you've got the Maryland senator that went down to try to talk to the El Salvadoran president, say, I want this guy. And he actually probably thought, I'll be able to bring him back, and I'll be such a big hero. I want you to hear from Patty Moran. Her daughter was attacked and killed by an illegal. Not the guy they're trying to get out of El Salvador right now, but somebody who was in this country, also a MS-13 gang member, who was roaming our streets, and he saw an easy target.
To have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren? I don't understand this.
You cannot understand it. Again, that's Patty Moran about her daughter. She said, my daughter that day, and again, this is a different illegal, not the one that the Maryland senator is trying to bring back. This is another MS-13 member who saw her daughter, who's the mother of 4 other children, saying, I'm going to go for a walk. And she said, I know she wasn't planning to walk to her death because she was going to come back, take the girls, and go to the grocery store. But this predator lay in wait and grabbed her, drug her 150 yards, blood gushing from her head, did what he wanted with her, left her to die if she weren't dead already, treating her like a piece of trash. And she's right. Why does this senator not have concern for Americans who've gone this kind of crime? Carolyn Levitt of the White House said just listening to that mother's plea was heartbreaking.
It was incredibly difficult to stand beside Patty Morin, a mother who has experienced every mother's worst nightmare. And it was incredibly powerful to listen to her words because they are the truth, the brutal truth about what happened to her beautiful daughter at the hands of a heinous monster who should have never been allowed into our country in the first place. And Patty was so courageous and brave to share the gruesome details about her daughter's murder. And thank goodness our justice system convicted this illegal alien criminal murderer of the heinous killing of Patty's daughter. And I was so honored to stand beside her today. And it speaks to just she also spoke to just the lack of common sense by today's modern day Democrat Party, because you have a senator in Maryland who is supposed to serve his constituents, including Patty Morin and Rachel Morin and their family. And instead, he is spending more time wasting taxpayer dollars flying to a foreign country in an attempt to bring back an illegal criminal alien foreign terrorist gang member than he ever gave the time to Patty Morin and her mourning family over the loss of his constituent. This shows you how deranged the modern day Democrat Party has truly become. And we are incredibly grateful for Patty for her willingness and her request to share her story at the White House briefing room today.
What these Democrats are doing makes you want to throw up. And, of course, the Maryland senator is saying, well, the guy that I'm going down for, he's not really guilty of anything. The hell he's not. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
This is an extremely disturbing case, and as a career prosecutor, it is even more disturbing. Every American tonight should be thanking Donald Trump for making America safer by getting this guy out of our country. I'm going to call him a terrorist because he has been designated as a member of a terrorist organization. So this illegal alien terrorist came into our country illegally in March of 2012. We know that because he admitted that when he was stopped in 2019 by the anti-gang squad. They stopped him at a Home Depot with 3 other members. And here's what's very important. He was wearing a sweatshirt with gang insignia on it. The guy he was with, another MS-13 known member, had a tattoo with very similar insignia on it. ICE declared him as a member of MS-13. The police officers, the gang unit, declared him as a member of MS-13. And also, they independently went to a reliable, confidential informant who said not only is he a member of MS-13, he gave them the clique, the Westerns, and he was called a Chicao, which is one of the higher-ranking MS-13 members.
Oh, he was just a nice guy. You cannot be educated and buy into any of this. You can't. Yet this is what this left is pushing. To fight for illegals and terrorists to stay in our nation. Not in their homes and not in their areas, but in the nation. Near you and your family. Speaking of education, by the way, as you know, Trump wants to dismantle the Department of Education. Whoopi Goldberg on The View the other day shocked her audience, saying she kind of agreed we should get rid of the Department of Education.
And maybe some of what's happening, like, they're trying to take apart the Department of Education.
Yes.
Maybe that is a good thing, because maybe it will force us to make sure that our kids actually get what they need. Maybe it'll force us to go to our state and say, listen, I want to make sure, since you're taking all this money from my taxes, I want to make sure that my kids get exactly what they need. I don't have to wait for the government to do it. We can do it. This is now in our hands. This is in our hands, and it's going to be tough, and nobody wants to do it because it's a bitch. But you know what? If it comes down to your survival, this is what you got to do. You got to take care of what you got to take care of. And they're telling me that we're going to be right back.
So she's going on and on about this, basically doing exactly what Trump and Leonard McMahon said. We don't need the federal government to oversee education. Put it all back in the hands of the state. And then she said, oh, they're telling me we got to go to commercial. In other words, Whoopi, shut up. Quit doing that. But you heard the audience applaud. Maybe they just didn't really understand and catch the connotation. She was making it very clear, in her opinion, we need to know what's happening with our money for our Department of Education. And we don't really need a Department of Education. We send it back to the states. We'll be closer to the money and see what's going on. Thank you, Whoopi, for actually speaking something of value. Now, there's another thing I want to share with you. In all this topsy-turvy world, there's a show host who has someone on board, but she will not agree to talk to the guest with her pronouns.
Good afternoon to you, Shivani.
Good afternoon, Julia.
Thanks.
You know my pronouns are they, them. How are you doing?
Yeah. Thank you for telling me your pronouns. I use correct grammar, so the only thing I would need to refer you to is to your face would be you. But I'm not being rude. You can choose your pronouns. You can choose what you want to call yourself, but you don't get to require me to use incorrect grammar and factually incorrect things. You're not a plural. You're a one person. And you're a female person, so I will use she and her. Thank you very much.
Do what you like, I guess.
Well, there you are. You didn't need to tell me then, did you?
Maybe I'm just making sure people know in case they're watching and they want to refer to me respectfully.
Is it disrespectful for me to use correct factual grammar?
It's not incorrect or unfactual grammar to use singular they them pronouns for an individual. But we're here to talk about the cast review.
Yeah, but you chose to bring it up.
You chose to use the incorrect pronouns for me.
I chose to use the correct pronouns for a single woman who is appearing on my show.
I'm not a single woman, though. I'm a very special non-binary trans person, as you just pointed out.
All right. We got the idea. We're not going to use your damn pronoun. Coming up, dealing with annuities. What do you know or not know? Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You can hear podcast of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington. always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is Silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. There is a speakeasy in Cottleville, but you need a passcode. So go to the Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook, get your passcode to one of the hottest new spots in the area. Amazing food, 7 hotel rooms, 2-bedroom penthouse, and a speakeasy. I got my passcode. Get yours. Let's enjoy the speakeasy in Cottleville. You get your code by going to Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook.
This is News Talk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. As always, when I have one of my sponsors on board, I make sure you know, full transparent with you. This is a sponsor you're going to be listening to, but he's also an expert in his field. And we're talking about you and your money and what you can do with it to make it better and maybe change things up. My guest is also a good friend of mine and fellow poker player, Robert Leslie with Leslie Consulting. Bob, welcome aboard.
Good afternoon, Mr. Connors.
Oh, Mr. I like that. I'll count on that going forward. I wanted to have you on board because a couple things, which, by the way, folks, he was a number 1 draft pick by the L.A. Dodgers in the past. I want to talk baseball with you a little bit later, Bob, but I want to begin first with a word that gets thrown around a lot, and a lot of folks aren't sure what it is, should they get involved with it or not, would be annuities. What exactly is an annuity, and how can it fit into portfolios, or should some people stay away from them?
Well, in today's world, Larry, with the volatility of the marketplace, and especially today, what's going on with, the ups and downs, the roller coaster on a daily basis, individuals, especially I would say that are age 60 and over, should be very concerned about their 401ks, their IRAs, taking a major hit at this point in time in their life, and it makes it very difficult for them to recover those monies in a short period of time. So if we look at history in just since the year 2000, so in the last 25 years, there have been 6 times where the market has gone down an average of 35%.
35% over what period of time?
There have been 6 different times from the year 2000 to 2024 where the market actually went down an average of 34.5%, 6 different times. And the real issue there is that you have to make 52.3% to get back to even. So if you're at age 60, you're rolling the dice here. If you're looking at retirement and your account goes down, it's very difficult to get back up. So you asked me about annuities. Annuities are a great answer for that issue because annuities have a 0 floor and they use index funds, and they can be invested in the same type of issues, the S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, Fidelity, all those issues, and they can get nice returns. And at the same time, they're protected. They can never lose.
Now, we mentioned that on a spot that we're airing where you state basically zero floor, you never lose. It's a gain and retain program. What exactly does that mean?
So let's say you start out with $100,000.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'll take that. Go ahead.
In year one, let's say you have a 7% gain. So now you're at 107,000. And let's say year two, all of a sudden the market goes down 20%. You're still at 107,000. Year three, you've got an 8% gain. Now you've got that 107,000 is your new step up in basis for your zero floor. So now you get 8% on your 107. And then the next year, if you have another,
I'm sorry. Let me back up to year two when I supposedly lost, or the market lost. Why did I not lose? Why am I still holding 107,000 at that point?
Because the annuity has what's called a zero floor, never lose protection. That's the gain and retain. Every time you have a gain, you never ever go back. You can never go down. So it eliminates all of these fluctuations, the roller coaster ride in the marketplace. So give you a great idea. Warren Buffett, who everyone knows is a very smart investor,
right?
He has completely liquidated all of his issues in the stock market. He is right now sitting on $334 billion of cash.
Wow.
And he made the statement that now is the best time to invest in index funds. So that's a pretty good source to consider.
And can this be part of an IRA or a pension plan, things of that nature?
The beauty of this program is you can utilize it. It applies to both qualified money. Qualified monies are your 401k, your IRA, your SEP. It can be a Roth IRA. All of those can be rolled over into this plan. And if you have non-qualified money in the stock market, or you just have cash invested in various things, that's eligible too, and all of the benefits are exactly the same, whether it's qualified or non-qualified.
Many are going to want to know, and I'm asking for them as well. There's got to be something in here that says it can go south on you, and you don't get everything.
There is absolutely nothing. You can never ever lose. You can never go down. And the beauty of these annuities is, we have there are no fee annuities. So not only is it growing, but there are no fees. You have liquidity in these annuities today. And give you an example, if you've got a retirement fund that you want to start withdrawing, you can pull out 10% per year without any fee every single year.
That's good.
So you do have access to your money. It's not locked up. There's a number of different types of annuities. There are annuities for accumulation, which is what I'm talking about. There's also annuities for guaranteed income, which is a whole different product. That is a product where you're looking for long-term guarantee of income.
That would be someone early in their years of earning, obviously.
Well, it could be someone early in their years. What a guaranteed income does, Larry, is you're putting a lump sum money in there, and that money is being held until a retirement date that you choose. And at that point in time, they're going to start paying you a retirement benefit guaranteed for as long as you live. So if you live to be 120, they're going to pay you to 120.
All right. Well, that gave us a better understanding, Bob, and I appreciate it. And you're listening to one of my sponsors. I always share that with you. Robert Leslie Consulting Incorporated. I want to talk sports for the last couple of minutes here. I mentioned that you were with the Dodgers, and you told me a story about you and Tommy Lasorda. I thought that was really great. I'd like you to share it.
Well, in 1972, I was the first player picked in the first round of the draft. And then I was fortunate enough to be invited to Major League Spring Training in 1974, 3 years later. And the exciting thing about going to Dodger Town and I'm in the Dodger locker room, and I've got my locker, and I'm looking at myself next to Tommy John and Don Sutton and Bert Hooton and all the famous players. And So I'm the first one in that day, and I'm dressed early, and I walk out to the practice field right outside of the locker room, and I walk out to the pitcher's mound, and I notice that Walter Alston, who was our manager at that time, is sitting behind home plate, and he's back there having a cigarette, I believe. And then all of a sudden, I'm on the pitcher's mound, and I hear this voice say, "Leslie, get on your knees." And I'm like, "What? Who is that?" And I turn around, and it's Tommy Lasorda. And Lasorda's walking up, and he says, and I look at him, and he goes, "Get on your knees." And I said, "Here on the pitcher's mound?" He goes, "Yes, sir. Get on your knees." He goes, "Get on your knees, and I want you to bow down 3 times and say, 'I love the Dodgers. I love the Dodgers. I love the Dodgers.'" So I did that, and he says, "Okay, stand up." And he's standing in front of me, puts both of his hands on my shoulders. He looks me right in the eye, and he says, "Bob Leslie, you now have Dodger blue blood."
Just
so
like
that was my initiation.
Hey, that's great. One other quick story. You faced the Tokyo Giants when they came into Vero Beach, Florida, in a spring training game. And one guy you faced, tell me briefly about his home runs and the last minute as to what happened in your face-off with him.
1975, the Tokyo Giants came to Dodgertown for spring training with us, with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And interesting, on my birthday, March 7th, I was asked to pitch against the Tokyo Giants. And one of the all-time home run hitter in all of baseball is a gentleman by the name of Sadaharu Oh. And he hit over 868 home runs.
All right. Now, in the last 30 seconds, he's hit 868 home runs. You're facing him. What happens next? 30 seconds.
Yeah, I got to face him one time, and I was able to strike him out on 4 pitches, which is, one of the greatest accomplishments of my life.
Do you think he went back and told that story?
I don't think so. I don't think so, Larry.
All right, Bob, again, I thank you very much. I love that Dodger blue blood initiation Lasorda put you through. And congrats on striking out the all-time home run leader, Sadaharu Ho. Or O. I got it wrong.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
We appreciate you supporting News Talk STL and Larry Connors USA. And again, folks, that's Bob Leslie, Leslie Consulting, one of my sponsors. Hopefully you also got some useful information regarding annuities and index funds. If not, Bob can obviously help you. Coming up, what's happening with some of the other people that are still trying to figure out what we're going to do with this nation going forward.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
Question: are you looking to unlock the full potential of artificial intelligence for your business? I want you to meet my friends at PRI Global, named by the St. Louis Business Journal as a leading IT consulting firm. 25 years helping local and worldwide companies. PRI Global has a free survey to determine where your company stands in your AI journey. You simply go to priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai. And I also have a phone number, so get ready to copy that number. And I'll remind you that PRI Global has its own AI lab, creating, adapting, developing, pushing the boundaries for what AI can do for you. Here's the number, 636-689-0545. 636-689-0545, or visit priglobal.ai. priglobal.ai. Here's great news. Napoli Kirkwood is now open. So that means fine dining right in the heart of Kirkwood.
I'll set up
so you have the original Cafe Napoli in downtown Clayton, Napoli 2, Town and Country, Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, plus Napoli Brothers Pasta and Pizza in the Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, and now adding Napoli Kirkwood. What a great place to dine. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. Renewal by Anderson is having a huge sale. Buy one, get one 50% off. Renewal has the most 5-star reviews in St. Louis, is the Post-Dispatch Window Retailer of the Year, winning the J.D. Power Award 5 years in a row, plus the nation's best warranty. For a limited time, buy one, get one 50% off. Details at rbastl.com. rbastl.com. Renewal by Anderson. You've worked hard for your money, so protect it. Meet my friend Bob Leslie and ask about the Gain and Retain Plan. Leslie Consulting, 40 years in the St. Louis area as a leader in brokerage and risk management. Call 314-721-0066, 721-0066. Oh, and ask Bob how he was the L.A. Dodger #1 pick. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is NewsTalk STL. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. We continue to tell you how many businesses are moving back to the U.S. because of the tariffs. I continue to hear people cry out, oh, my God, the tariffs are going to kill us. They're going to hurt us. Our good friend and guest on the program, John Laboutiere, sent me a meme of something earlier suggesting how bad the market was doing. And I'm not questioning his numbers. I think they're probably right. But again, I look at who's deciding at what point. Let me see here if I can find the numbers he sent. Basically, it's jobless claims spike and worrisome sign for the U.S. labor market. That was from CNN Business. That doesn't surprise me. They're going to look for any negative they can. Are we going to see some pain? Yes. And there will be some people that might be hurt more than others as we go through the tariffs and get things straightened out. But Trump is making every effort to deal with nations, say, come to the table, and we'll work it out. But you're not going to continue to take advantage of us as you have for all these years. He's looking for free trade and fair trade. And you want another example of somebody coming into the U.S.? AMD announcing its key processor chips will soon be produced at their facility in Arizona. That'll mark the first time AMD products will be manufactured in the States. That follows just the other day where AI giant NVIDIA announced it's going to produce all AI chips and supercomputers in Arizona and in Texas. All of this is good news for our nation. And other companies coming in and money flowing in. Different financial groups coming forward and saying, we pledge $500 billion to get some startup business underway. Hyundai planning on building another motor factory, maybe 2, in the U.S., so they won't have to pay tariffs of cars shipped into the U.S. That's all good news, and it creates jobs, high-paying jobs. But I want to share this with you. This was sent to me by my boots-on-the-ground correspondent in Chicago, Andrew. He peruses some things that I don't get a chance to get to normally, and I thank him for it. This is published in Town Hall by Kurt Schlichter. And it talks about how people view Trump and what we're doing. So I'm going to, again, the credit goes to Kurt Schlichter. It's in a Town Hall publication. These are not my words. He begins by saying, I want you to think carefully and see if you can come up with a single issue on which the leftist establishment sides in favor of normal Americans. Just one. Just one time when they prioritize the interest of normal people over the demands of weirdos, losers, mutations, illegal aliens, pinkos, perverts, and vegans. And then he adds, I'll wait. And by the time you get back to me, the sun will have burned out. Saturday Night Live will actually be funny again. Good line. Actually, Saturday Night Live did a skit the other day that did get a lot of attention. I think even Charlie Kirk said, I might even start watching them again. You know what they're doing? They had two men sitting together. They were holding a baby, a doll, actually. And they were talking to four other people in the room, a man and a woman. And they're asking them, where'd you get the baby? It's our baby. What do you mean it's your baby? We saw you last night. Nobody was pregnant. You didn't say you had a baby. No, we had a baby. What do you mean we had a baby? You're two men. Oh, they continued to insist, and then, of course, called out those who were normal, calling them being the weirdos, saying, well, of course we can have a baby. You can adopt one. But they want to claim that one of the two of them actually carried that baby. And they'd just seen them the night before. They were not, quote, pregnant looking. And a man cannot get pregnant. Anyway, Kurt Schlichter continues in his article. Many have observed that Trump is always on the 80 side of the 80-20 issues. What's surprising is how eager the left is to go all in the 20s. That is true. He said there is something about the left that forces it, even against political common sense, to always take the side of the bad guys. Or the idiots, is the way I would add to it. He continued in his article, the American people have come out pretty clearly against this weirdness, but that will not stop those people on the other side. Every single time they have the choice between decent, normal American teenage girls and weird men who like to expose themselves to the same in the guise of being a woman, the left supports the creeps. That's true. Every single time. And not just a little. It is a pagan sacrament to them that some dude named Phil can pretend to be Phyllis and walk into a woman's locker room with the whole gang swinging. You know what he meant by that. He said the left could choose to be on the side of normal Americans who would prefer not to be raped and are murdered by illegals, or anyone, I would add. Prefer not to be raped and are murdered by illegal aliens who shouldn't be here in the first place. But the establishment left backs the illegal aliens who should not be here, even to the point of wanting them imported back into the U.S. when we finally get rid of them. He adds, think about that. They not only don't want those people gone, but they want us to bring them back. He said, of course, the left has always loved criminals. It's never the fault of the scumbag thief or psycho killer. He said, you look at what's happening in El Salvador. It once had the highest murder rate in the world. Normal people being butchered by gang members. New president came in, grabbed up all the gang members, stuck them in this giant prison. Murder rate dropped by 90%. Normal lives being saved. But then some of them saw, with the help of Joe Biden, thank you, Joe, they could come to our country and live out their fantasies and prey upon Americans. So we're gathering them up now and sending them back down there. And you've got the wacko senator from Maryland that said, I'm going to go down to El Salvador and get my citizen back that they picked up off the street in Maryland. Arrested him in front of his children. Does he not know that any parent who is with their child and police stop them for a warrant and they're taking them into custody, they're going to take them into custody whether your children are with them or not. They'll have somebody come take care of the children. And sure, it's traumatic for the child. But blame the parent who committed the crime, not the child, and not those carrying out law and justice. Again, in addition to the Maryland senator going down there, as I'd mentioned to you earlier, you've got numerous members of Congress, Democrats, who want to die on this hill, I guess. At least 2 of them are coming forward and calling for a full congressional delegation to go down to El Salvador to do a welfare check on any of the illegals that have been deported and put back into that prison. A welfare check. I don't know if that even translates into the El Salvadoran language, which I would assume is Spanish or a derivative of. But yes, Congressman Garcia of California, Frost of Florida say, and sent a letter to James Comer, head of the House Oversight Committee. Comer, of course, a Republican, saying, you need to put together a group of members, bipartisan. We can go down and look at some of those who have been deported during the Trump administration and make sure they're doing okay. They're not doing okay compared to being outside that prison. That I can guarantee you. But lost in this, one of the previous stars and icons of the leftist movement, he's crying out that he's not being treated fairly. And not a single Democrat has come forward and said, let's perform a welfare check on this guy. Who is this guy? This would be Harvey Weinstein, the media mogul who was apparently a predator, sexually abusing numerous starlets and anyone else. He is now appealing conviction on rape. He's being held in New York's Rikers prison, which might not even be equivalent to what they have in El Salvador, but it's not good. And Harvey Weinstein is sending out word, I'm suffering while I'm in here. I've got various medical conditions, and he may have. He said, I've been mistreated for what I need true treatment, and I'm asking that I be sent to a hospital while my appeal is underway. Nice clean sheets, nurses to come in and check on you. How are you doing, Harvey? Can I bring you some Jell-O? Oh, you don't want the one with the fruit in it? Okay. So Harvey Weinstein is crying out, where are my Democrat friends who loved him and made money off of him and were always at his big parties? Where are they now? Oh, they're all going down to El Salvador to check on the well-being of illegals we have deported that never should have been here. Sounds like a fantasy, doesn't it? But it's a fact. Now I'll give you another fact that a woman wants to make a fantasy. Gayle King of CBS Morning News was one of the women, 6 that went up in the Blue Origin space capsule the other day for a brief time in space and came back. And she got upset because they are being called, these women, all-women crew, are being called like they were riders, just passengers. Here we go.
I don't like that people are calling it a ride. A ride, you never see a male astronaut who's going up in space and they said, oh, he took a ride. We actually duplicated the route that Alan Shepard did. That's why it's called, this particular capsule is called the New Shepard. We duplicated that route. No one said he took that ride. Yeah. It's always referred to as a flight or a journey. So I feel that that's a little disrespectful to what the mission was and what the work that Blue Origin does. We use space technology all the time, whether it's your GPS, whether it's your satellite. That doesn't just happen. Every time a flight goes up, they get some type of information. 2 of the astronauts, I still have a hard time calling myself an astronaut, but 2 of the astronauts.
You're not an astronaut. You shouldn't have a trouble calling yourself an astronaut. Now, if they actually duplicated Shepard's his mission, that was in 1961. That was well ahead of the advances we have made. Alan Shepard did basically what they did. He was on a Mercury spacecraft, Freedom 7. For 15 minutes, he was at a suborbital flight that made him the first American in space. That's what these women did. They were up in space for a period of maybe 15 minutes or less, if they followed his flight plan, as she claims. And Shepard was an astronaut. He had trained to be on board that in 1961. He didn't have anything he could control once he went up there, but he trained to be in the capsule. That's why Chuck Yeager, the pilot who first broke the sound barrier, had no interest in being an astronaut at that time. He called them basically spam in a can. They can't do anything. They just sit up and they fall back down to Earth. That's what Gayle King and the other ladies did. Shepard was obviously honored greatly at that time because we're talking about 1961. Since then, we've had Man on the Moon. Shepard himself has been part of that. We've had others. Armstrong. But Shepard was the first American to travel into space. And he became the fifth and oldest person to walk on the moon at age 47. And they were training. They were being tested. I guarantee you these women, not one of them went through the tests that any of the astronauts go through today. And it's not just dissing women by saying this was a ride. On the Space Shuttle Challenger, when it exploded 73 seconds into liftoff, 2 women were killed. One an astronaut who had trained for years, one a teacher who was going to be the first civilian on such a flight. But she had to undergo extensive training as well. And she had a job to do on board during the space trip. They were true astronauts. Gayle King, if you want to call yourself an I'm forgetting the rest of the word. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Hey, as always, I appreciate you listening. Tell your family, your friends, your enemies, and remember our pledge: one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.